in this next video, I want to get tactical. I'm calling this video Navigate and Create. This is what pioneering leaders do. The two kind of superpowers or the two signature skills that pioneering leaders have that other styles of leadership do not yet emphasize is that pioneering leaders are able to navigate and create the hopeful future. And so right now there's a lot of shaking, there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of leadership models are not equipped to navigate the unfamiliar future, the landscape, going through the territory they've never been through. We've never been here before. And then creating in that context, turning uncertainty into opportunity, turn a crisis into creativity. So that's the question, is why do most leaders plateau? And why do leaders lose their way? It's because they don't know how to navigate their narrative, and they don't know how to create their life's work. There's actually two fronts where we need to show up in the leadership journey. I don't want leaders, the people that I care about, the people that I want to see grow and scale, I don't want them to love building something that they are going to later resent repairing. I'm gonna say that one more time. I don't want the leaders that I care about and coach to love building something. Oh man, I love the launch phase. I love the building phase. I love the vision phase. I don't want you to love building something that you're going to later resent repairing. And that's tough. What happens? And if you're in generational leadership like you and I, we live this. One generation loves building something, and then the next generation is tempted to resent maintaining it or repairing it or stewarding it. And you wonder, what are we supposed to do with this? So what's the antidote to that kind of apathy? It's learning how to navigate and create, learning how to do both. Now, let me explain what I mean. There are two sides of the same leadership journey coin. You're a leader, you're on a journey, you're pioneering, you're going through the unfamiliar future, the terrain. It's like you're on this amazing wilderness hike. Just imagine New Zealand or something. The leadership journey has two sides. The first one is navigating your internal narrative. And another way I could say this is your prophetic story. You have a prophetic storyline. And so you're always learning what that storyline should look like. This is seeking God's will. This is following His voice. This is a constant aspect. It's a navigational aspect. Always seeking the Lord. Always seeking the Lord, because we're constantly navigating uncharted choices. But the thing we're actually navigating is our own narrative. Our narrative. What is the story that we're living in? And this speaks a lot to the idea of like mindset and self-talk and, negativity versus positivity. And I mean, that's great. And there's a lot of great people talking about that. But I'm speaking specifically in context of your walk with the Lord. What is the story that you're living in? And so practically, tactically, a lot of leaders plateau because they are not keeping up with the storyline. And so, like, for example, you have King David and you have King Solomon. And King Solomon did great until he finished his father's vision. So David knew the storyline, and he has vision to build God this temple. Solomon is going to inherit David's life's work. He's going to build the temple, and then when he finished building the temple, he doesn't have vision for his life anymore, and he loses his way for a while. Okay, so specifically for generational leaders, those that are second generation, third generation, and beyond leaders, you've got to be navigating your narrative with the Lord. What I love is that the Lord is both an architect and an artist. And so it's learning the language of your faith journey and learning how to live by faith. And there's different strategies and tactics we can get into, but that's a huge aspect of just pioneering leadership, is navigating your narrative and wayfinding. That's a big part of it. Now, the other aspect is creating. This is where we actually do work and we create things with our life and with our time and with our teams. And this is your life's work. So you have your life's story. What's the story you're actually living out? And when you have heavenly perspective, that makes what you're doing meaningful. So a lot of leaders get stuck and they have some sort of midlife, mid-career crisis, right? Or they get to the top of whatever ladder they were climbing and then they say, what was the point? But regardless, they lost their way. They lost their meaning because you've got to stay connected with the storyline that the Lord's writing. Then on the other side, you have other leaders and they really struggle because there's technical barriers to do what God's put in their heart. So they see themselves doing more, but maybe there's a practical or professional limitation. They don't have all the skills yet. They don't have all the experience yet. They don't, and so they can't create it yet. They get stuck on the technical side or the logistical side. So it's understanding both. We're always going on that personal, internal journey with the Lord, exploring, expanding. We're making discoveries, making decisions constantly, and it really is shaping the course of our lives. At the same time, we also need to be productive. We need to be working, leading, right? Taking ground, making progress. And so what happens is if we don't understand this, what's meant to be a tension that is healthy, that helps us remain in tension or intentional, then what happens is we get strained and it becomes a tug of war. And so many times, if you're so introspective and you're just thinking a lot and you're soul searching, and there's seasons for that for sure. But I mean, if that's all you do, you're just kind of finding your way. What's my purpose in life? What am I doing? What's the point? Where am I at? Then you're really navigating a lot personally. And then you're not going to be able to show up for your team. You're not going to be able to show up for your family. You're not going to be as productive or profitable as you need to be in that season. There are seasons where you literally have to sit on the bench and heal up, and then you come back and you can go, make more progress there. Or vice versa. There's seasons where you're just creating a lot, but you're losing that spark of direction and that sense of symmetry with the Lord's storyline for you. So it's about balancing both and realizing that as a leader, you are leading in the personal sense of understanding your story, and that's understanding the poetry of your life and the intentionality of how the Lord's been leading you. So you're always moving in faith. And then you're also being very practical about it, and you're being productive with the work that's in front of you. And so there's two best practices that I practice and share with others in the coaching, which is journaling and planning. Because I think if we're journaling and planning, we're covering both of those sides. So journaling is journal the journey, and that helps us navigate the narrative that the Lord's is unfolding for us. So basically, journaling the journey is I have a journal, and I'm very adamant about journaling my journey. In fact, the journal thing has kind of grown for me. But simply put, I journal my story year by year. And I try to get a theme for the year that somehow it's an attempt. It's not, I'm not saying it has to be exact, but it's an attempt to say, okay, let's summarize the season we're in. Let's summarize this season. What's the Lord doing? What's the Lord saying? What's the Lord emphasizing? And we need that perspective. There's a whole nother Bible study on Elijah. When he was depressed, he literally was hiding in a cave. And the Lord said to him, what are you even doing here? He says, the Lord didn't call him into the cave. Elijah went looking for the Lord in the cave. He was hiding. He thought, okay, maybe, Lord, I could just finish here. The Lord said, no, you're not done. You're not the only one. I'm going to repurpose your ministry, and you're going back out and you're going to fulfill your ministry through others. He got a whole new, paradigm. He got a whole new paradigm. Why? Because the Lord started to, work on his narrative. He thought, I'm done. I'm the only one. The best thing that can happen for me in my life. I've already had the biggest victory behind me. I saw fire come down on the altar. That was the best thing that could have ever happened. There's nothing else for me left. And he had no idea. He thought the best thing that would happen for him is calling fire down, not God calling him up with fire. So my point is hope. My point is that there's always a hopeful perspective. The Lord's always in hope. The Lord's always in faith. We need that hopeful paradigm. And the Lord gives us revelation on every situation. And we say, oh man, this is the worst. This is the worst situation. This is the worst thing that could happen to anybody. And now it's happening to me. And the Lord's like, if you saw this situation from my perspective, you'd be shouting for joy. Count it a blessing when you go through the trials. Count it a blessing. Don't waste any of your trials. Turn it into worship. Turn it into gratitude. Turn it into a test and then a testimony. And it's about having that hopeful perspective. That's how we navigate the narrative. Looking at the situations of our life and saying, Lord, where are you in this? How do we summarize the season? So that was really cool. And that's what journaling allows. And it's not just Dear Diary stuff, because we think, oh, I'm just kind of documenting what I did. No, it's about making discoveries, making decisions, because the future is always present. It's just not evenly distributed. It's like the burning bush. The burning bush was supernaturally happening, and Moses could have missed it all if he didn't turn his head and pay attention to what the Lord was doing in the moment. And there's a quote that says that the glory of God is burning everywhere on every bush, but some people just pick the berries. And it's like, are we paying attention to the Lord and what he's doing in the moments of our life? Because the future is latent in the present, in the mundane, in the everyday, in the stuff of life. And if you're paying attention to it, then you can lean in, and it actually becomes a doorway, so to speak, into that hopeful future. I had a dream one time that really marked me, and basically I went through a door and I went to this beautiful kind of forest area, and I went back outside the door and I saw on the thing, it said Pioneer Future. And really ever since then, man, in my heart, I've been marked with this word pioneering. And it's funny because I've seen different people kind of carry that word, pioneer. And now pioneer is kind of popular. People want to talk about they all want to be pioneers now. And I'm kind of like, well, I know the Lord marked me. So if these are my friends, then I'm happy to share the word with them. But I know it's definitely a word for me. So anyways, the point is that these are doorways. And if you get divine perspective from the Lord, you can enter into something. And that's why it's so important. But like I said, like the logjam, it's counterintuitive to go get margin. But margin gives us momentum. So that's the first part, is navigate your narrative with journaling. And there's more we could say about that. Then the next part is planning. Some people, they aim one towards the other. I lean way heavier on journaling, but I've learned how to get better and better with planning. In fact, it's so funny, what I was struggling with in one season, now I got strengthened in it, and now I can be a strength to other people, because I really know how hard it is to be a planner when you're so like creative and kind of aspirational and visionary, and I'm just kind of living in the future. I've had to learn. It wasn't just something that I grew up with naturally. I had to build that skill set. So it's a little more, I appreciate it more. Let me say it that way. But I have a system that I call Pioneer Planner. And basically we go through the different calendar levels. So we do annual planning, quarterly planning, monthly planning, weekly planning, and then we have daily practices. And it's simple, but you compound them. And so now you have layers of things that are keeping you in check. Pioneer planning is how we make sure that we're still creating the projects and the goals that we said, were important to us. I don't have a perfect batting average on either end, but it does help me stay intentional. And I think that that's an important way to live. I'm going to make this the last video. The theme for 2025 for me and for my coaching is going to be our expansion era. I really believe the Lord wants us to expand our capacity so we can grow into leadership communities. And I think that's the way into the hopeful future. I love you and your family, and it's been a real rewarding thing to just journey with your family. Yeah, I'm here to pioneer with you. Thanks so much, and we'll get together soon.